Welcome in, episode 48. Ramie and Drew. I am Ramie Mackloff. That's Drew Flaggy. We're a couple Milwaukee-based comedians.
That aren't
We
happy.
talk sports and whatever other bullshit comes to mind. And yeah, man, usually we keep it light and happy and fun. You know what I mean? Not nothing lighter, happier, fun about today's show. Drew, as a couple of Bucks fans, with them losing Game 3 last night, now down 2 games to 1. We can talk about the game in a little bit, but the news breaking within the last half hour, Dame Lillard
Don't even.
has a grade 2 Achilles strain, and he is doubtful for Game 4 tomorrow. How we feeling?
We're fucked. I mean, there's no nice way to say it. We are in so much trouble now because we got. I mean, Bobby Portis rode Bobby terrible first half yesterday. I know the players don't like when the fans sit there and kind of start doubting them, but that was just more of the pattern of getting kind of bad performances on the road out of our supporting players. Pat Connaughton brings absolutely nothing to the table. Chris Middleton had a fantastic game. It was efficient. He hit clutch shots. But now we're back to the point where Middleton's our primary scorer, just like the Miami Heat. I wouldn't risk bringing back Giannis because that's the franchise right now. They pissed away so many opportunities this year, doing just bad games, lack of focus games. Giannis always says, it's about building good habits. The habits of the Milwaukee Bucks the last couple of years are there's always a tomorrow. Well, having this mentality of we can get them tomorrow, there's 2 tomorrows left. And we will be going home losing 4-1 again in the first round against a weaker opponent, just like last year, with a better roster.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying a series is over till it's over. But if there's
That's
no
with health.
chance, I know if there's no chance of Giannis coming back, and I don't know if that's the case or not. The news certainly hasn't been trending in the right direction in terms of he hasn't played 4-on-4 or gone full contact yet, and we have 1 day until Game 4 coming up tomorrow. So I don't know if Giannis can come back, they can easily win this series. I would still pick them to win this series. If Giannis is coming back, I would still stand by the prediction I made on Twitter last night that they're not losing another game in this series. And again, we can talk about last night's game and why I felt that way after the game was over, after we get over the news of Dame Lillard being out. And by the way, I want to throw out the link here in just a minute when Drew starts talking, so folks can join the show and you can sort of get on the couch and we can talk this thing through together on the Ramie and Drew show. And please follow on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. But if they have no Dame and no Giannis, as heroic as Chris Middleton was last night, Drew, I try and keep it optimistic and positive. That's just sort of how I think. That's my vibe. That's the way I live. I'd have a hard time picking them to win this series if they're out with if both of those guys are out.
Yeah, you'd need some magic to happen out of you would need like Andre Jackson to be a game changer like he was last night. You need Brooke Lopez to almost pitch a perfect game. You need home Bobby on the road. We were all talking in our group chat yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of Bucks fans watching it. Everyone at the bar that I was at Jack's on Brady Street. Everyone in the bar when Lillard rolled that ankle or the knee twisted or whatever, and he went down. I mean, everyone looked sick. Like it's just the injury bug. Just we're so snake bitten, but that's going to come with an old roster also. I don't know. This is maybe me being ungrateful and being angry at the way that the end of the season has transpired. I'm very done with players like Pat Connaughton. He's doing a lot out there, but I could walk around in circles in my apartment all day long. That doesn't mean I'm accomplishing anything. I'm just moving a lot.
Yeah, it's not for lack of effort. It's not for lack of effort from Pat Connaughton. I don't think that's the case. it's just not there anymore, man. It's you see flashes of it, he'll do something and he'll even do stuff in some clutch situations, some big spots where you need a bucket or you need something from him, but it's not there enough with Pat Connaughton.
No, it's not. Like I joked a lot of like us doing this podcast about things like betting lines and everything, like what players are ruled at. And I mean, Las Vegas is really good at predicting this kind of stuff. And Pat Connaughton is consistently lined at 5.5 points. And I am ashamed to know that I make money betting the unders on him. There's just nothing left there. There's a lot of hustle. There's a lot of heart. Whatever his real estate thing is, I guess he's good for the community or something like that. But dude, I don't know. We're here to win basketball games. At least Bobby, like I said, he does a lot for the community, and at home he's great. But man, this just looks dire. Bobby's the guy that I would like him to be back and stuff. Like I wouldn't look at trading him. Brook Lopez, that's another guy. I love Brook Lopez, but man, he couldn't rebound yesterday when we needed it in overtime. You're 7-2. You're just not rebounding.
Dude. And we can get into tonight's game. And I put the link up on my Twitter at Ramie is tweeting. If folks want to get in on the show and talk about Dame Lillard, if you want to get into last night's game, Drew, how long have I been preaching with this basketball team about losing the rebound battle and giving up too many offensive rebounds and giving up too many second chance opportunities for this team? I don't have the box score in front of me right now, but if I remember correctly, Indiana had 20 points, 20 second chance points in the first half, and I think they finished with 32. And there was one sequence in overtime where they had the ball for a solid, I want to say minute 45 of the game clock, because they just kept getting rebound after rebound after rebound. And dude, in a playoff series, you cannot let that happen. Extra possessions, whether they're coming from turnovers or rebounds, will kill you every time. The margin of error is too small when the field gets narrowed down to the top 8 teams in each conference. I don't care who that is on the other side. If you're giving up that many points hottest of Jacob comments in the on the YouTube page. You can comment as well. And again, click on the link and get in on the show. Most second chance points in a playoff game since 2001. I saw that stat earlier this morning. That's just you'll lose every game that you let that happen. And Bobby should be embarrassed of that. Brooke should especially be embarrassed of that. Drew, my girlfriend, she's not a basketball fan, really, but she was watching the game with me, and she said to me, she was like, Brook Lopez is as tall as the basket. How is he letting these guys get rebounds? He just has to reach up and grab it. And if it was Miles Turner, if it was Pascal Siakam grabbing these boards, man, it was Neesmith and Nembhard out rebounding the Bucks bigs the Bucks were throwing big lineups out there, and you were still losing the rebounding battle and giving them these second chance opportunities.
Smaller players like that, though, that can snake around guys and stuff, and like they got like quick hands, everything. I mean, that's how Andre Jackson impacted the game, though, because he was doing the exact same thing. Like he was getting his hands in there, he was knocking the ball around. Did you see the thing that our friend Eric sent in the group chat about how many rebounds we got when Andre Jackson was in the game as opposed to when Brooke came back?
No, I didn't catch that.
You can look it up because I'm doing this on my phone, obviously. But yeah, it was just a stark difference where it's like, tomorrow I'm basically going to be watching this game just to see what can our young guys do in this in the absence of Damian Lillard and stuff. But it sucks to see Dame go down. He's my favorite fucking player. I say this over and over and over again. He's just, it was a dream come true getting him on this team, and then to see him go out like this is just, it's honestly nauseating and it's heartbreaking because like I really wanted a deep playoff run with Dame Lillard and Giannis, and we're gonna lose to a team that I don't know if Bucks fans feel this way. I don't think this is new toy syndrome. I don't think this is me being hyperbolic. This team, this Pacers team, bothers me more from a personnel standpoint than the Celtics do. Than like I make fun of Tatum. Halliburton pisses me off more than Tatum. Tatum's fun to troll on. Halliburton, I think, is a fucking clown. I really think he's a clown. I think that Miles Turner is a clown. I think that Rick Carlisle as a coach, I think he's a clown. I think this is a clown fucking team. And I hate every single one of them besides Pascal Siakam because he's the only guy who's ever actually won something on that team. But these guys dance and they skip around like they've fucking been there and they haven't. They got no rings. And I will.
But that's the thing, dude. That's the thing about last night's game that kills me is it. Bobby Portis said it after game 2. They're front runners, dude. And they get real jumpy and real dancy and real smiley and clappy when things are going good. But when things are going bad, you can see them. And even the Indiana crowd last night, you could feel them like retreating into their shell when the Bucks erased the deficit and took a lead there in the fourth quarter. And the fact that you couldn't finish that, if you could have finished that right there, that would have been such a gut punch in this series for that Pacers team. And to let it go to overtime and to lose in overtime the way that they did was a gut punch in the opposite direction.
I mean, the bigger gut punch is Dame being hurt. That's
sure.
The worst. If we had Giannis healthy and Dame went down, all right, I was like, we could weather the storm. Or if it was vice versa, if we had, if both of them were out there and then Giannis got hurt, I would feel probably worse because of the way Giannis plays. But other than that, like I wouldn't be as worried. Now both of our superstars, like we have damn near like $100 million in payroll that's just on the bench. Close. I like I said, I hate that Pacers team. Like I said, they've never won something. There's gonna be a lot of salt in what I'm about to say because I dislike all of them. And I hate this team more than I hate the Miami Heat. I'll say it. I don't. The Heat, at least, they got some pedigree. They win games and they've won championships and they got guys with winning attitudes. Jimmy Butler is a competitor constantly. Jimmy Butler never hangs his head and pouts the way Tyrese Halliburton does because those guys looked scared in the fourth quarter when the Bucks started making a big comeback.
That was
one leg game. But man, them to get that win, they get the Dame news. The Dame news is probably the same today, win or lose. But and I was on the phone with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, catch his post game show, and catch Wisconsin Sports Daily weekdays 2 to 6, both on 1250 AM The Fan and your Odyssey app. Hey, I still got that down. Maybe they should hire me to do that again. But anyways, what Sparky was yelling at me about was the use, and after Doc talked about Dame's usage in the first 2 games, because he kind of fizzled out in the second half of the first 2 games, Doc said after the game that Dame came to him and basically said, use me as a decoy. Like I don't have the explosiveness. And he still kept him out there on the court, which and Sparky was losing his mind about that on the phone. And he said he was losing his mind about that on his post-game show last night. If you win that game, I guess you didn't have to put Dame out there in the first place, knowing he was as hurt as he was, or saying that he was, but also there isn't even the risk of putting Dame out there in overtime, and you delivered that gut punch, and you have the 2-1 lead. You know what I mean? Like, so it makes the fact you didn't win that game, it's compounded by the Dame injury. But the fact you couldn't win that game when you had them down the way that you had them down, both on the scoreboard and in terms of momentum, their morale, like you had it, dude. You had it in their team that will crumble if you can deliver that kind of gut punch. And the fact that they didn't is a gut punch in and of itself to the Bucks. Well, going back to even what I said about them being a young team, a big thing that comes with young teams like Orlando, like Oklahoma City, and like this Pacers team, they're stupid. Like literally, they are stupid. Like Dame being out there hobbled, they still were sticking to him like he was going to be a big threat. The decoy worked. Yes, it was more run on that foot. Yes, it was more stress on Damian Lillard. And yeah, he still probably wasn't going to be playing tomorrow. But the Pacers did have to respect Damian Lillard being out there.
Well, the way that he shot it in the fourth quarter, he was a big part of the reason why they took that lead and were able to erase the lead that the Pacers had. So
but,
yeah, he made them have to worry about him even on a bum leg.
You know, there's a whole thing, you know, and I've said this about the skipping and the dancing and all that shit with that team. A big issue that I have with them is that they are doing this like they're the greatest team in the playoffs right now. They're doing this against a team that has an injured Dame Lillard, an injured Pat Beverly, because remember, his wrist is still, he has a torn ligament. You're doing this against an injured, no Giannis. You are doing all of this damage against a team that, if they had their best players, are infinitely better than you are. And they are acting very much like they are taking down Michael Jordan. This is 97 Jordan that they think they're taking down right now.
I mean, I'm not mad at them for being excited doing what they're doing. I don't think that they're going to go very far, but they should be excited. You beat who's in front of you, and it's largely now, outside of Pascal Siakam, it's largely a young team who's never really been here before and never felt the playoff electricity. So of course they're going to act the way that they're acting, and they should enjoy it, if the fact that they're up 2-1 and the fact that they won what was a great basketball game last night. And you're right about all their antics and shenanigans, and especially Tyrese Halliburton.
There's a lot of fucking humility, I think, that does go into that, though, like losing gracefully, because there's a couple other things that this all plays into, like with the front runner mentality and stuff. And Halliburton, and you know what? I don't want to get into it. The comments that he has made about the city of Milwaukee, the comments he's made about the fans here, the atmosphere at the Forum, the apparent racial slurs that have been yelled at his family members. That is not a guy who is going to go out and when they beat the Bucks, when they beat us, say that's a great organization led by a great team. That is a guy who is going to sit there and he is going to pump his chest like he is God's gift to fucking basketball. And that bothers me. And that's where I start coming into the thing of just wait for your injury. Just wait. Because you played terribly after you pulled that hamstring. You were terrible. You were a shell of what you were.
Yeah, he was. Dude, he was ass in the first two games of this series.
He's still, I mean, his assists were great yesterday. He had he had a triple-double, 16 assists and everything. But that guy is dancing around like he's dropped in 50 pieces everywhere. I mean, fucking Giannis, when he dropped a 50 piece in a closeout game, didn't act the way that this fucking clown does. Tyrese Halliburton has quickly become my most hated player. You know, people hate LeBron James because, you know, it's like, oh, the King James stuff. LeBron, for what it's worth, has been a mostly likable guy for a lot of his career. Hasn't this kind of shit. Yeah, some PR mistakes with the with the decision and everything. But LeBron ultimately has been a consistent model of excellence in the NBA. The same thing cannot be said about Tyrese Halliburton.
He's annoying. He gets under my skin. I'm not as much as you, but he's annoying for sure.
And when you're going to dance around, when you got hobbled players out there, when you got guys that are hurting, I'm sorry, but we got enough guys that they got nothing left to play for here. You know, maybe besides pride. I'm sorry. Make his ass taste the fucking pine, dude. I am very done with that team. You go into the paint, dude, throw him down. Throw him down. He doesn't get easy buckets in the paint. You want to make a floater, you're making that floater.
They've allowed, not just to Halliburton, they've allowed, and again, this goes to the Bucks bigs, man. And Brook Lopez in the last two games has done a lot of good things in terms of scoring. Bobby obviously has had his struggles. I think he woke up a little bit in the second half yesterday, but the Bucks bigs on top of the rebounds that we just talked about and the historically horrendous stats that we talked about in that department. Too many easy buckets in the paint. Too many guys just cruising to the basket and getting easy buckets. It's inexcusable, man. It really is. Drew, I would even say that. Now, I was saying coming into the series, despite the way that the season ended, despite the fact that this team didn't live up to the expectations that we had when they made the trade for Dame, that I was a believer in their ability to flip the switch. That when you're as good a player and a guy who's shown to be as clutch a player in the postseason as Dame Lillard is, when you're as good as Giannis and Chris, when you have the pedigree that Giannis and Chris and Brooke and Bobby and the rest of these guys on this team have, come playoff time, you can take your game and turn it up to another level. I don't with no Dame and no Giannis, I don't have that faith. But if they were able to flip the switch, and with what I saw from Chris Middleton last night, if Brooke Lopez and Bobby Portis could act like big men, if we could get what they got from Andre Jackson last night, I would still give them a chance to win this series without Dame and without Giannis. But those things, without those two guys, I have no faith that they can just flip the switch and start doing those things and start fixing the problems that have cost them games in this series already.
That's 60 points on the bench. We're sitting where the Nets were basically when we played the Nets, where you had, Kyrie out and you had fucking Harden out and you had Durant, trying to carry everything.
Yep.
Like right now, basically Chris Middleton is our Kevin Durant. Our Harden and Kyrie, the two guys that can go get a bucket whenever we need them to get a bucket, those guys are out now. And this is depressing to think about that this season turned into this. Like, I don't know. I'm just, it sucks as a fan to have to deal with this. Like, you had this all year long, and it's like the hopes were that this is going to be built for the playoffs, and now it's just we're pretty cooked here. This is.
I'm not gonna. First of all, I'm not writing the eulogy yet for this team. I'm just gonna say that nothing's over, to quote the great Rocky Balboa. But if this season ends the way that it ends, as far as the disappointment scale, I think it's a little bit easier a pill to swallow that injuries was the thing that got them, really, and not that they, like last year, they were better than Miami. Like, they just lost to a team in a 7-game series who they were better than. And Giannis was out for a couple of those games too, but I still thought that was a series that they should have won. I don't think this is a series that most people will point to with no Dame and no Giannis and say that they should have won. That to me is a harder pill to swallow.
Most people being Bucks fans, we're gonna probably cope pretty hard about this and be like, play what if, the same thing is like when we're like, well, we would have beat the Celtics if we had Chris Middleton. Now I don't put a lot of stock in the national media.
It is definitely coping. I'm not gonna act like it's not. It is definitely coping, no doubt.
The national media is absolutely going to be, couldn't get this done without Dame and Giannis. Yo, this team bad. This is a bad team. That's going to be the entire thing. It's going to be Stephen A. with his stupid Knicks mouth talking. It's going to be, it's going to be Kendrick Perkins that the Bucks don't know how to build a roster together. And you're going to have Candace Parker looking like a couple. That's all you're going to have. Like, that's all this is going to be. And I'm just like, man, did we really squander this fucking season with just, because again, everyone knows how time works. Everyone's older next year. You think Chris Middleton playing 80 games next year? I don't think so. Another year. Middleton. The main thing I'm optimistic about really is Chris, Dame, and Giannis next season. They're gonna have a full training camp with Doc Rivers and his staff. They are going to build out this roster the way, I know people probably won't like me saying this, the way Doc Rivers wants to build this roster out.
Mm-hmm.
We will go get guards or something. John Horst, I don't blame him. I think John Horst is terrific with making moves with everything we have. I think Andre Jackson and AJ Green have absolutely showed us something. they'll be a nice, cheap replacement for like some Pat Connaughtons on this team. Marjan's probably a good guy that you can trade something for.
This roster will undergo some changes in the offseason, but I honestly don't think now is, even without Dame, I don't think now is yet the time to talk about that stuff, man. And no matter how this season ends, Drew, I'm gonna stay true to two things that we've preached all year on this show, all season. We're almost to 50 episodes. Thank you to everybody who's followed and subscribed, rated, reviewed, told a friend at YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Two things we've said all along was appreciate this, just the hope and the excitement of having a team that's this talented, and to have meaningful basketball and legit championship hopes and aspirations in any season is a good thing. I know some people are gonna say that that's loser talk, or that's whatever. That's always how I felt. And the other thing that we've said is this is a 2, maybe 3-year window. And I'm not going to start going down the road of, oh, they're another year older next year, of assuming injury problems. This could be a whole different story next year, man. I heard Jokic talking the other day about why the Nuggets are so good. And he didn't even mention Jamal Murray. He was talking about playing with their role players for 2, 3, and 4 years and learning how each other plays and how important that is. The speed they play with, how their mind works, and where they're going to be on the court. Like, they're going to be together for an entire offseason with Doc Rivers, with whatever the roster is that Doc and Horace put together, and hopefully come into next year healthy, and hopefully can stay healthy. I think they might have a better chance of doing something next year than they do this year, despite being a year older.
The 1 year older guy that concerns me, it's not Giannis, it's not Dame. It's Middleton.
Chris. Yeah.
And I mean, Middleton last night showed again, Bucks fans, why that guy is here.
I wanted to talk about that before we wrapped up, man. We should acknowledge the performance that dude put in last night, because that was amazing.
Chris Middleton was, in the amount of times that he's hit shots throughout his career for us, especially in big games, at the end of the shot clock, just on the wing and stuff. Man, Middleton is, I should have my Middleton jersey. I'm going to be wearing it tomorrow because he's our only active player that we have.
Is that a jersey? What are you wearing? I see you're sleeveless again.
Oh, this is one of my shirts I'm wearing. I'm going to the gym after this. So this is just one of my compression shirts.
Gym again, huh? You were in the gym yesterday.
Told you, I'm trying to fucking lose all that fucking bad weight that I gained.
Look at this guy.
Just spent 4 hours in the gym yesterday, 2 hours playing basketball, 2 hours lifting.
Look at you.
I'm down 15 pounds since I started going.
That's great. Good job, dude.
I'm just, just trying to get jacked and everything. Just trying to.
I think I've probably packed on a few lately. I fluctuate.
Also another thing too is like, you saw me sipping my Dunkin' Donuts coffee because I stayed at my girlfriend's house last night. So on the way home, like, she was going to brunch with girls today. So I was like,
brunch.
Stop and get coffee on the way home. How about that? That sounds nice. So I got my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. It's an anti-appetite whatever thing, so it's good hydration. So
do they have like some kind of sugary syrup pumped into it though?
No,
what do you got?
No, I just do iced coffee and cream. That's it. No sugar.
You ever try oat milk?
Yeah, I do. I do oat milk when I go to like Collectivo.
It's good.
I'll get a cold brew in an oat milk. Yeah, I got nothing against oat milk.
I like that we said we should talk about Chris Middleton's performance last night before we wrap this thing up, and we got into a discussion about our weight and oat milk and coffee.
Well, you brought up the fact that I'm wearing a sleeveless shirt right now, but it's because my shoulders are popping. It's nothing to do about it. Honestly, my shoulders are so my shoulders are so jacked right now that I can't contain the sleeved shirt right now. I can only wear tanks. So,
well, that's good to know. Let's get in hot take, Jake. What's going on, Jake? How are you, man?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, so there was a fan that I was talking to on Twixer yesterday, and he's like, man, the Bucks every year, it's just they always get hit with bad injury luck. And I said, fuck that. Like, you can't have the oldest team in the league year after year after year. You get hurt every year and then be like, well, what bad luck that we got. We ran into bad luck. This is completely on how this roster is constructed and the shit show coaching carousel that they have going on. This is horrendous management. This is years and years of ignoring a problem. This is years and years of being the worst drafting team in the NBA. And now we have to pay the Pied Piper now. And let's talk about Doc Rivers. You have Andre Jackson Jr., who sparks the comeback. His energy was palpable, but people were living off that energy. And then he gets benched in the stretch run. This guy is worse than Adrian Griffin. His track record shows he's a choker in the playoffs. He has an archaic dinosaur method of coaching. And now I'm going to go ahead and pull a Ricky Bobby on you guys right now and it's in the Geneva Convention that if I say with all due respect, I can say whatever I want. With all due respect, the idea of just, well, let's run it back. They'll have a full training camp. They'll have Doc's system in place. That is not going to help anything. The only way that Doc's training camp is going to help this team is if he has a DeLorean that he can gun it to 88, take them back in time 7 years, get these guys new legs, new bodies. We're just going to have the same shit next year, except we'll probably run into it in the regular season even quicker.
Jake, let me ask you this though.
Sorry, I'm angry. Go for it.
No, it's fine, dude.
That
we're here for it. And if more people want to jump in and get some anger out on the Ramie and Drew show, the link is up in the comments on YouTube and on my Twitter at Ramie is tweeting. Did they not sort of handle Chris Middleton with kid gloves this year in terms of his health and bringing him back from his injuries?
But the problem with that is that was always going to be a problem. Chris Middleton, every single year it's something. Some people, again, will say it's bad luck. He stepped on someone's ankle. I don't care how it happens. It's just there's always something with him, which is why I've been called a Chris Middleton hater. I've never said that Chris Middleton was a bad player. It's that you cannot rely on him.
But if that's the case, then I can't really blame the Bucks on that. Giannis has been out in the playoffs the last 2 years. The style of basketball that Giannis plays and the amount of minutes that he plays, and you could argue that's something that the Bucks could control, so there's a better chance of him being healthy in the postseason. He's going to get dinged up, and there's always a risk that he can get injured. The Dame thing last night, somebody stepped on his foot. Like, I don't – those aren't age-related things necessarily. That's a couple of bad luck happenstances and a guy who plays a really physical style of basketball. And I agree that maybe the back end of this roster, and we saw Andre Jackson Jr. last night contribute some things. We've seen AJ Green contribute some things. The back end of this roster could certainly be younger, and that could take the load off the guys on the front end of this roster. And they could have done a better job of drafting. But if you ask me, I don't want to change the combination of Giannis, Dame, and Chris. And honestly, I like Brook Lopez too, and I'm okay with Bobby Portis. Like, I don't need the top end of this roster to get younger. I really don't.
I mean, if you aren't going to fix the mistakes of your past, you're doomed to repeat the failures of your past. So they missed the boat on trading a guy like Middleton. He doesn't have any value because you can't rely on him. Obviously, Dame's value took a shit this year. They're just kind of stuck. So I said it in the comments. If Giannis were to demand a trade, I would not blame him. He doesn't have many years left of prime. This guy, he's going to be 30 next year, I believe. He's someone that completely is reliant on athleticism for his game. That's waning year by year. And if he wants another title, I'm just going to say it. They're not winning another title in Milwaukee with the team as constructed. They need a rebuild. I would love to have the balls to do it. I don't think Giannis would want to stick around for that. But again, if we run this team back, it's pointless to even invest anything in this team next year.
I disagree with two things, one on each of your parts. Ramie, the drafting thing, nothing you can do, because that would mean that they would have to have the balls also to develop players in a championship window. And that means you would be giving significant minutes to somebody else. And honestly, yeah, you could have given these minutes now, looking back at this entire season. You could have taken away Pat Connaughton's minutes and thrown Andre Jackson or AJ Green in there. But part of that's on Griffin, part of that's on Doc. So I'm not going to really blame either of them. That goes back to the shit show for like right now. Doc, I think, gave more meaningful minutes to AJ Green and to Andre Jackson, obviously. And he's learning what he has in those guys too. The main thing with Doc, and you know that this team hears the chatter, and that goes all the way up to Doc. Giannis the amount of times that everyone talks about Giannis being the primary ball handler and the ball sticks and nobody moves without the ball, that's been a big talking point. Charles Barkley brought that up. I don't necessarily see a problem from the Giannis end where Giannis is the guy that's, constantly using the ball in the half court. The bigger issue for me is that none of the coaches, that's Bud, that's Adrian Griffin, and that's Doc Rivers, when Giannis starts going downhill, none of the players are rotating to spots. Nobody's setting picks off the ball. They're just kind of saying, Giannis, go to work and shoot 60% at the rim. That's what they're doing. That's a problem. So I think next year going in, if they really try to run this back and you implement Damian Lillard is the point guard, and Damian Lillard will bring that ball up. And what's going to end up having to happen is Giannis is going to have to be a roller. He's going to have to be a screen setter. And I think that getting guys off of Giannis and drawing attention to Damian Lillard as a shooter, a cutter, a passer, Giannis is going to have less stress banging against people. They're still going to throw bodies at him.
I think we have to also maybe come to terms with the idea that perhaps Dame and Giannis is not a fit like we thought it was going to be.
See, I'm not ready to go there yet, man. That's
you don't. I mean, I get it. You don't want to go there because it's like it's a reality that we don't want to face. But
no, because I don't think one
now.
year. I don't think 1 year is enough time to make that assessment. I just don't. I'm not saying you're wrong. We might find out that you're right. I'm just saying 1 year is not enough time to make that assessment.
I'm honestly going half a year on that one again, because the Griffin thing, it seemed like there was something personal when you look back at it with the way Dame was used under Adrian Griffin. That felt personal because it was like, oh, Terry Stotts wants to run the offense this way. Well, Terry Stotts walked out on me. And then it's like, well, now Dame, you're going to be whatever. You're going to be just reduced to whatever Malik Beasley was this year, who's also been absolutely terrible in the playoffs. What do you guys think about bringing back Pat Bev?
I'm open to it, but not necessarily married to it. You know what I mean? It depends what the other options are.
Yeah. I think if Pat Beverly is a major player on your team, you've already lost. Like he's a nice little energy guy, but if you're counting on him for a major role, it's over.
No, and that's the thing is I would rather him be an off the bench guy, but also go try to find another guard that you could get. And that's where I start looking at who can we trade to also probably bolster, because he's going to be cheap. Like we're going to have to get guys on the cheap, basically.
I mean, how cheap are you thinking? I don't think he's a veteran minimum type guy. I think someone will give him a little bit of cash. And the Bucks are cash strapped. They don't have leverage. They don't have assets. They're screwed.
Yeah, you might have to ask him to take a discount. That's possible if he likes Milwaukee and likes playing with Giannis and those guys.
Well, he likes
Doc. Yeah.
Like, he's very adamant that he likes Doc. So, like, I guess a shared vision is a thing that I'm all right with, too. Like, them trying to, run it back with some of these guys. There are some dudes that I'm just like, I mean, even, like, I love Brook Lopez, but I'm like, shit, that might have been a mistake bringing him back.
Well, and the issue is, and this happens with a lot of Bucks fans, they'll get mad like I am right now, and it's like, God, we need to fix things. But I don't want to trade Middleton. I don't want to trade Lopez. Like, we can't trade Bobby. Like,
no, I'm
hate
open.
The results, but you don't want to change what got you those results.
I'm open when it comes to Brooke and Bobby, and very open when it comes to the rest of the roster. But when it comes to the trio, the big three of Giannis, Dame, and Chris, I'm not ready to give up on that yet. And I know it's an older trio, an older big three in terms of relative to the rest of the NBA. But man, it's two of the best players in the league when you're talking about Giannis and Dame, even at the age that they're at. And we saw what Chris Middleton can do last night. I'm not ready to give up on that because a couple of guys have suffered. But quite frankly, like I said, are not age type of injuries. They're freak type of injuries that these guys suffered. I'm not giving up on it because of that.
How could it be a freak thing, though, if it happens year after year after year?
Well, the Middleton thing, him going up for a jump shot and guys kind of landing in his landing zone. Like there's a little bit of that. How much of a flagrant foul can we get away with thing in the NBA? And that's every team that does this. I mean, shit, Giannis was the one that did it to Kyrie in our title run year, where Giannis slipped underneath Kyrie and rolled his ankle too. And the same thing happened to Trae Young when they were against us. Like, there's a little bit of dirty play on everyone's part. It's what can I get away with? So I know Middleton isn't the guy that you're going to necessarily target on those kind of things, but Kevin Durant slipping under his, under his landing zone. And then when Middleton came back and played the Suns in the second, like 20 games later, Durant did the same thing to him. It's like, that's just Durant, how he's trying to bother the shot by make the guy think about where my feet are as a defender. Middleton, again, last night could have gotten seriously hurt because Miles Turner didn't commit a flagrant foul when Middleton was in midair and he pushed him in the back. That's the same. That was basically reminiscent to me of, remember when Andrew Bogut got shoved by Amari Stoudemire and blew his arm into a million pieces? I was like, that's a dangerous play. If Middleton, if his knee buckled, I was like, Bobby swing, just hit this guy in the face. I am so done with the Pacers team when they get away with bullshit like that and they're skipping around. It's like, how do you like your ankles, boys? Like,
Jake, I see you got your Packers t-shirt on there. You feeling good? You feeling good about the draft class?
Well, I mean, I have to remember that Brian Gutekunst is a god. I'm not feeling this draft class at all, and I love the NFL draft. I really get into it. I guess it's interesting to me. I looked at this team, and maybe the front office views the team different than the fans do. I looked at this team as like, you've got all this draft ammunition. You've got the quarterback on the cheap. Now's the time to like consolidate those picks, go get blue chippers. And the feel of this draft to me is very much like a depth type draft where you're still trying to just kind of like plug your roster holes a little bit. And again, I would think coming off the year that they had that they would be a little bit more aggressive, but again, that might just be their mindset that the team is in a different spot than we think they're in.
I'm not a huge draft guy, especially when you get past the first round, but just going off what smarter people than me are saying, I've heard nothing but positive reviews about this Packers draft. I mean, I know the guy that they got in the first round. I think he's an absolute mauler, the tackle that they got. And then people seem to really like the safety that they got to pair up with Xavier McKinney. Daniel Jeremiah said the running back they got was the best running back in this draft. That I think they got him in the third round, if I'm not mistaken. The reviews have been positive, and not just from local media or from Packers fans. Most of what I've heard about this Packers draft class has been pretty positive. Not as good as the Bears draft class or anything like that, but pretty
when
good.
You're in the basement every year, you're going to get some good draft picks. So no, it's funny because like I have to remind myself that I don't know shit, and I would say just from what I've seen so far, this is the least excited I've been for one of Gutekunst's draft classes. But we'll see what happens. That's why they're in the positions they are, and certainly they have more resources and spend a little bit more time than even your hardcore draft guy fan watches draft picks and that. So. I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. I guess I'm just mildly underwhelmed that maybe they didn't move up to go get, what many people would view as like a blue chip weapon on either side of the ball.
Jake, anything, any final thoughts, man? Or did you get it all off your chest?
I guess I think the window is shut. I think I've had the sneaking suspicion for a long time that the Bucks have failed Giannis in many, many ways his entire tenure here. They got a championship on the back of his greatness, and pretty much in spite of the Bucks, Giannis got himself a championship. And I think for you Wisconsin sports fans, this Bucks team is the mid-'90s Packers and the late 2000s Packers, where they're kind of there. They're kind of there. They got one off, a great run from a once-in-a-generation player, and that's probably all they're going to get.
Positive way to go out, Jake. Talk to you soon, man. I'll appreciate you chiming in. Thanks, buddy. There's Jake. Well, I was about ready to wrap the show up, Drew, but that's a really downer of a note to go out. You got anything positive to wrap the show up on?
Well, to kind of, I understand what he's saying too, and I think the Bucks did a disservice to Giannis by listening to everything Giannis wanted. Also, like this year, you look back,
there's almost always a little bit of that with a superstar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to at a certain point, but it's like, sometimes you have to protect people from themselves.
Yeah.
Keeping
again,
the
people
only I was
here.
Brought back Brooke Lopez, and then he can't get a goddamn rebound in overtime when we need it. Like we need rebounds out of our bigs. Like
I'm going to give the positive note that this show needs needs to end on. All right. First of all, nothing's fucking over. All right. Nothing is over. Even if Dame is out and Chris is out, nothing is over. And Drew, I texted you last night and I tweeted this last night at Ramie is tweeting, and I meant it. This wasn't hot take type stuff from a podcaster or a sports talk host. I meant it. And I meant it when I said it in 2021. And I said it because of things that I saw on the court and in the statistical trends of this series and of the series back in 2021 against the Suns in the NBA Finals that made me say they're not losing another game in this series. And some of those things can continue even without Dame and without Chris, and that is how they win this series. The Bucks were better in the second half in a lot of ways yesterday, and quite frankly, the Pacers for about 6 quarters were playing above their heads and doing things that they weren't going to be able to keep doing. Statistically speaking, it was just impossible. And we saw some of that peter out in the second half of yesterday's game. I think they'll continue to peter out. I think the Pacers have played their best basketball in this series. I think the Bucks did in the second half and still can play even better and can still play the best basketball that we've seen in this series. And nothing is fucking over, Drew.
Yeah, you're right about that. But there's another thing to this too. Like the rotations, like I said this before, you're going to have guys pitch a perfect game, basically. That's what you need out of a lot of players on our team. And a big thing that I think we really need, or it's going to show tomorrow, is does Doc take a chance on somebody tomorrow? Like, do you start AJ Green for defensive reasons?
I mean, if you don't have Dame, it's going to be probably Green or Andre Jackson.
Oh, no. I'm telling you right now who is going to start in Dame's spot.
Or
so it'll
Bees.
be running the point, which is I'm okay with him directing traffic and trying to get guys to move and call in plays and stuff. I'm a bigger Pat Bev guy than I think a lot of people probably would even be comfortable with. I think he's an incredibly smart basketball player. I got nothing against Pat Bev. I am mortified at the prospect that we are going to get Point Connaughton a lot tomorrow. A guy who
I don't know about that.
Nothing. I don't know, man. Like, I do not want them to. This is going to be a Coach Bud thing. Are we going to recoil into rely on the vets?
Here's how they're going to win this game and win this series. You clean up you clean up the defensive rebounds. Bobby stops wasting paint opportunities. You play some defense around the basket. Stop letting him cruise through the lane and get easy buckets. And I'm telling you, they can win this series. That's my final thought, Drew.
I've said I still think that every player, pound for pound, position for position, I think that we still have a better roster than these guys. I think Bobby Portis is way better than fucking Miles Turner. I think that
there we go. That's.
But like I said,
so nothing's over.
Siakam, I think Pascal Siakam's a great professional basketball player. The thing is, I don't think he's any better than fucking Bobby Portis. They're the same guy. And Bobby's a better three.
I would disagree, but it's not a debate that I want to have right now. They can still win this series. Drew, I got to work tomorrow, but we can. I'll be watching the game at work. I shouldn't, but I'll be watching the game at work. But we can do a little late night post action tomorrow night after they even this series at 2. Are you down?
I don't know where I'm watching tomorrow. I might just be watching the couch with a fucking blanket over me and my eyes closed.
Don't worry about it, man. You know what? They win. They win tomorrow. The series is tied at 2. There. I said it. I did it. I said it. That's Drew Flaggy.
Jersey.
That's Drew Flaggy. I'm Ramie Mackloff. This has been Ramie and Drew, episode 48. Nothing's over, and we'll be back again tomorrow.
All right.